They mocked the human, called him fragile, foolish, unworthy of their royal blood. But when the alien king rose from his crystal throne, his words shattered the hall. If you think yourselves superior, then you shall marry him. And in that single decree, arrogance met destiny. The crystal hall of Etherian Prime shimmered like a living prism, each beam of light refracting across 1,000 mirrored walls. Beneath its vaulted ceiling stood Commander Ethan Cole, the lone human in a sea of radiant, otherworldly faces. Every gaze held a trace of disdain, curiosity perhaps, but never respect. Before him, three sisters whispered behind jeweled hands. Their laughter echoed like silver wind chimes, beautiful, cruel, and deliberate. Princess Kaelin, her emerald skin faintly glowing beneath the palace lights, leaned forward with the confidence of a soldier who had never lost. "Is this truly the species Father believes can stand beside Etherian?" she asked, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Beside her, Vera, cool and composed, adjusted the data band on her wrist. "His cranial symmetry is statistically adequate," she observed, "though his species seems biologically inefficient." The third, Novia, violet-skinned and sharp-eyed, smiled without warmth. "Perhaps he's an experiment, to see if primitive emotions can survive enlightenment." The crowd chuckled. Ethan didn't flinch. He'd faced worse in military briefings and diplomatic dinners, but this, being mocked by beings who considered him less than real, stung deeper than he expected. Still, he met their eyes steady and calm. "Funny," he said finally, his voice cutting through the laughter. "Where I come from, emotion built empires. Maybe perfection just got lazy." The hall fell silent. Even the ambient hum of the crystal walls seemed to pause. Then from the dais above, King Erevan IX rose. Tall, silver-skinned, and weary of arrogance, his voice carried like thunder trapped in glass. "For centuries we have called ourselves enlightened," the king said, his gaze sweeping across the hall. "Yet I see arrogance festering in my own bloodline. If you mock the flame that seeks peace, then perhaps you must feel its heat." He turned to Ethan. "Commander of Earth, you shall be bound to my daughters, not as punishment, but as lesson. 3 hearts, 1 vow." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The sisters froze in disbelief. Ethan just blinked, almost smiling. He had come to negotiate a treaty. Now he was part of one. Ethan Cole hadn't imagined his first day as a royal husband would begin with being locked out of his own quarters. The ornate crystal door shimmered blue, denying entry as Princess Kaelin's voice snapped from inside. "Human, your presence is unnecessary," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "That's funny. My marriage license says otherwise." From somewhere down the corridor, a servant coughed awkwardly and scurried away. Eventually, the door opened just enough for Vera to peer out. Her sapphire eyes scanned him like a living scanner. "You require instruction," she declared, tone clipped. "You're breathing too loudly. Our air systems are calibrated for efficiency." Ethan smiled faintly. "You mean oxygen?" "Exactly," she said, missing the joke completely. Inside, the royal suite gleamed with alien geometry. Sharp lines, floating light orbs, and zero warmth. He looked around. "You guys ever heard of furniture that doesn't try to stab you?" From the far end of the room, Nevaeh looked up from a holographic console, her violet skin glowing faintly in the ambient light. "Humans and their obsession with comfort. You confuse softness with safety." He dropped his duffel bag beside the crystalline couch. "No, we just like our spines intact." That earned him a small, reluctant smile. Hours passed in uneasy silence. The sisters moved like a synchronized unit, speaking in clipped alien phrases he couldn't quite translate. Ethan pretended not to notice, focusing instead on setting up a small coffee brewer he'd smuggled from the diplomatic shuttle. When the aroma filled the air, all 3 princesses paused mid-conversation. Kaelin wrinkled her nose. "What is that smell?" "Civilization," Ethan said, pouring a steaming cup. "Try it." Vera tilted her head, intrigued. "Is it toxic?" "Only emotionally," he said with a grin. To everyone's surprise, Novia took the cup. She sipped, eyes widening at the warmth that spread through her. It's Chaos in liquid form, she whispered. Kalen scoffed. Figures. Humans even drink their mistakes. Ethan chuckled. That's how we learn. And for the first time since the decree, the sisters didn't laugh at him. They just looked, curious, uncertain, as the human they mocked began, quietly, to rewrite what they thought they knew. Outside, unseen by them, a faint pulse flickered through the binding sphere buried beneath the palace floor, as if the world itself had started listening. By the third week of his marriage, Ethan Cole had learned three things. Kalen sparred at dawn, Vera argued with Data, and Novia could read a man's mood faster than caffeine could fix it. What he hadn't learned was how to breathe easy in a palace that watched him like a living organism. Every wall whispered, every shadow shimmered. That morning, Vera stormed into the common hall, clutching her holo tablet. Someone accessed the royal network through your credentials, she said. Classified files, council communications. Ethan set down his mug. That's impossible. I don't even have clearance. Kalen appeared in full combat armor, eyes narrowed. Maybe that's what makes it perfect. Frame the human, start a war, end a treaty. Her words hit harder than he wanted to admit. For the first time, he saw doubt, not disdain, in her face. She didn't know if she believed the accusation. Novea crossed the room, calm but alert. The council's moving pieces. They've always hated Father's alliances and a human in royal quarters. That's the spark they needed. Ethan took a slow breath. Then we find who's lighting the match. Together they traced the intrusion signal through the palace archives. The trail led to the sub-level, cold, humming, lit by pulsing veins of crystal. It smelled like ozone and treachery. Halfway through the descent, the binding sphere pulsed beneath their feet, flooding the corridor with pale blue light. Ethan felt something tug inside his chest, a thread of awareness not his own. Kalen's anger, Vera's fear, Novea's curiosity. Their emotions flickered through him like static, Vera gasped. The sphere's reacting to you again. It's linking our neural fields. So now we share feelings? Ethan muttered. Great. Next we'll be finishing each other's sentences, Novia finished softly, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. Before he could respond, an explosion rocked the hall. The shock wave hurled them to the ground. When the smoke cleared, Ethan saw what had caused it. A figure of living crystal, eyes burning white, standing over the ruined archives. The council sends its regards, it said, voice metallic and cold. The human infection ends tonight. Kalen drew her blade, Vira steadied the sphere's readings. Novea reached for Ethan's hand. For the first time they stood together, not as captives of a decree, but as a team facing a common enemy. The palace burned with blue fire. Crystalline corridors cracked like glass veins, each explosion shaking the air with a scream of metal and light. Ethan sprinted beside the sisters, his boots sliding on fractured floors. Who's controlling the sphere? He shouted over the chaos. Vera's hands flew across her holo device, eyes frantic. It's the council. They've linked it to the throne's energy grid. If it collapses, it'll take half the planet with it. Kalen sliced through debris with her plasma blade, voice fierce. Then we cut them out before they cut us down. They reached the throne chamber, now half destroyed. The binding sphere hovered midair, pulsing violently, a miniature sun of unstable power. Beside it stood the crystal assassin they'd seen below, now joined by others, hollow-eyed, gleaming, controlled by the council's will. Your unity is a lie, one hissed. Emotion breeds weakness. Ethan's grip tightened on his blaster. Maybe, but it also keeps us alive. The first wave hit like lightning. Kalen charged into them headfirst, her movements a blur of strength and grace. Vera rerouted the sphere's feedback with trembling precision. Novia stayed near Ethan, her empathy flaring bright enough to feel. Every fear, every heartbeat, every flicker of hope surging through them. Then the unexpected happened. As Vera stabilized the core, a pulse of energy burst outward. Ethan stumbled, clutching his chest. He could feel them, all three inside his mind. Thoughts overlapping, emotions bleeding together. Kalen's courage mixed with his instinct. Vera's logic sharpened his focus. Novea's calm steadied his heartbeat. For a moment, they were one being, four minds in perfect balance. The energy merged, amplifying through the sphere. The Council's control shattered like glass. The assassins fell lifeless, their crystal bodies dimming to ash. But the victory came at a cost. The sphere kept drawing power. From Ethan, his knees buckled, body glowing faintly under the strain. "Ethan, stop!" Vera cried. "It's draining you!" He forced a smile. "Guess we finally found something we all share. Responsibility." Navia pressed her hands to his chest, channeling her energy through the link. Kalen and Vera followed, their combined light flooding into him. The hall exploded in blinding radiance. When it faded, the palace stood silent, and Ethan was still standing, the sisters at his side, the sphere now calm and clear as glass. They had stopped the coup, but something deep within the sphere still pulsed, alive, aware, watching. Dawn rose over Etherian Prime in waves of golden mist. The once ruined palace shimmered under the rebuilding light, its fractures mended by living crystal that pulsed in rhythm with the binding sphere. Ethan stood on the balcony overlooking the vast city. For the first time, it looked peaceful, less like a world of perfection, more like a place that had learned to breathe behind him. Kaelin approached in her royal armor, now polished but dented with pride. "You still look uncomfortable in royal robes," she teased. He smiled, tugging at the high collar. "I'm a soldier, not a chandelier." Her laugh was brief, real. Months ago, she would have mocked him. Now she understood him. Vera appeared next, holding a datapad filled with schematics. "Your idea of merging human engineering with Etherian crystal tech? It's working. The new energy grid stabilized the sphere completely." Ethan blinked. "Meaning it won't explode next time someone gets emotional?" "Mostly," she said, deadpan. And then there was Novia. Calm, glowing, her eyes softer than before. "Father would have been proud," she said quietly. "You turned his punishment into purpose." Ethan turned to face them. He believed in connection. He just pushed us into it faster than we expected. Novia smiled. "Sometimes lessons hurt before they heal." They stood together as the Council of Etherian entered the courtyard below, bowing, not out of fear, but respect. The human once mocked as primitive was now the bridge between two worlds. Vera stepped closer, lowering her voice. "The sphere is evolving. It's recording us, our emotions, memories, choices. I think it's, learning." Ethan looked at the glowing orb in the center of the hall. "Then maybe it'll learn something useful." Kalen smirked. "Like sarcasm." "Like forgiveness," Novea murmured. A gust of wind swept through the balcony far below. Children played among the crystal gardens, human and Etherian alike. Their laughter carried upward, clear and alive. Ethan rested his hands on the rail. "You know," he said softly, "for a planet that started with mockery, we're doing all right." Kalen nudged him. "Don't get sentimental, husband." He grinned. "Too late." As the twin suns rose higher, the sphere pulsed once. Faintly, almost like a heartbeat. Somewhere deep within its core, new stars shimmered in reflection. Etherian had changed forever. And so had they. From mockery was born unity, and from unity, a legend that will outlive worlds.